Hi everyone, it's Michelle Lee, the editor-in-chief of Allure, and today I'm going to walk you through one of my everyday makeup routines. So usually in the morning, and keep in mind this is like a work day for me, I do my morning skincare first and then get started on my makeup. So first thing that I'm going to start with is eyes. I always start with an eyeshadow primer. This one is Bare Minerals Gen Nude. Love this one because it's a little bit tinted, works really well. So I'm just going to apply that all over my lids. And just to teach you a little bit about eye shapes, I have a monolid eye. A lot of Asian people have monolids, meaning I don't have a crease in my eye, so meaning single eyelid. I also, if you look at my eyes, this part here is called the epicanthic fold. So as I'm walking you through some of these eyeshadow and eyeliner things that I do, it's a little bit different of a technique for people who have a crease. But I'm really glad that there's a lot of videos and a lot of just like good tutorials out there for people who have monolids, because that was not around when I was growing up. Okay, so today I'm gonna use the Huda Beauty New Nude palette. Love this palette so much. I at home have probably 40 different eyeshadow palettes. I'm very fortunate because as a beauty editor, I get a lot of companies sending me things. And, you know, obviously not everyone at home has the good fortune to have as many palettes as I do. I tend to say that I don't have a normal routine because every day is different. I love to choose a different palette. That being said, if you're gonna get one, this new nude palette from Huda is amazing. You can do so many really great looks with it. Okay, so I'm gonna go into this kind of light color called Bare and sort of tap that off. And then I like to go just under my eyebrows and start with that. Gonna go back in and do another on the other side. And I'm just using sort of like a nice fluffy brush. Okay, so next I'm going to go in on this color called Play. And I'm gonna go all around my lid with that as kind of a nice base. And then just repeat on the other side. And just really lightly, I'm gonna go a little bit closer to my actual eyes and just lightly put that in. So again, if you have an eyelid crease, you would kind of have a bit of a guide. For me, because I don't have one, I just sort of know that this is the orbital socket. So you can sort of feel that with your fingers. And I'm going to kind of follow that shape. So even though I can't really see it, I know where it is. A little bit more. I always say that doing makeup is a little bit like cooking. They always say that it's easier to add more than to take away if you're salting things. I feel the same way about color, that it's easier to add more than it is to take away. So it's always easier to build on it. I'm just going to do the same on the other side. Good. Okay, so what I want to do is typically anything that I put on top, I'll also repeat a little bit on the bottom. So I'm taking one of these Sigma Detail Diffused Crease brushes, and I'm going to dip it into that same color, Teddy. And I just want to kind of line the bottom half of my eye with that same color and extend that out. And just to do that again on the other side too. And then using that same brush, you kind of want to think of everything on your eye being ombre, right? So it's starting from light, getting a little bit darker over here. And then for me, and for most people when you're doing eyeshadow, it's really important to remember that outer V shape. So you want to go in with a darker shade. I'm using Raw in this case with this detail brush. And I'm going to start defining that outer corner. So again, if I had a crease, my crease would be right here. So I want to kind of stick this brush where that crease would be and just follow that out and imagine it as a V shape on the corner of my eye. So dragging that color across that V. And then taking a little bit more and defining the V. And I'm going to do the same thing on this other side. And you can see as I'm sticking this brush in here, it's almost forcing a crease in my eye, so I can see where that shape should go. Okay, and because I want to define it even more, I'm going to go in with the darkest shade in this palette, which is this deep purple called Love Bite. I'm just going to kind of tap the end in there and just tap it right into the corner of my eye. Okay, I'm done with the matte part of my shadow. So now I'm going to go in with the shimmers, which are really pretty in this palette. If I was going out at night, I might choose one of these really beautiful glitters, but I'm going to go in with the more subtle shimmers right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little bit of spring water. You can also use any mist at home, but I'm going to go ahead and dip my brush. I want to use these two. So I'm going to use a little bit of Daydream, drag that through, and a little bit of Fantasy. So this is a lighter one. This one's a little bit darker to add a little bit more color. And then, so you can see I've got some packed on the brush. I'm going to take my spring water and I'm just going to give it a spritz. And this helps to amplify that color when it's on my lids. So I'm going to start with the inner corner and I'm going to kind of tap that out. I find that with any glitters and shimmers, a tap helps because you're not going to have as much fallout, and especially when your brush is a little bit wet, it helps it just to stick a lot better. So you're going to get much more of a concentrated color and less of it falling all over your face. Okay, so I like to also kind of keep my eyes a little bit open and take a look all the time because again, I don't have that roadmap of having a crease, so I get to take a look in the mirror and just see if I'm doing it in the right shape. So the right shape for me is I want it to be kind of following the rest of that eyeshadow. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that, but what I want to do next is, it's really nice and adds a little bit of definition if you add a little bit more of that lighter shimmer to the center of your eye. So I'm actually going to go in on this color called Crave, and this is the lightest shimmer. Tap that out, give it a little spritz. And I'm just going to put that right into the center, which makes your eye look like it's a bit more rounded and has more definition. Okay, so I'm just going to repeat that on the other side. Again, dipping into Daydream and then Fantasy. A little bit more. Give it a little spritz. And then I'm going to repeat on the other side. And I usually don't go all the way. I would say it maybe extends to about half of my eyelid to maybe about 2/3. You don't want to necessarily cover up that dark area. And then again, going into this lighter shade of Crave, give it a little spritz, and just right in the center there. Okay, so I want to pull my mirror in a little bit closer and use a blending brush now. I know a lot of beauty YouTubers and other influencers are so big on blending. I don't have time. So honestly, on a daily basis, I'm sure I could blend my shadows so much better than I actually do, but we're not going for perfection here. We're just going for something that will look nice during the day. So I'm usually pretty happy with just sort of blending out some of the harsh edges and then going with it. Okay, so I also, like I said, don't want to forget this bottom area too. So like I said, anything that I've done on the top, I want to repeat on the bottom, at least of my darker shades. I'm going to take a little bit more of that darker shade called Raw, put it a little bit under, put a little bit more of that dark Love Bite under, Raw Love Bite, just to kind of extend some of that color. Okay. Eyeshadow is done. Next step for me is I'm going to finish the rest of my face later, but I'm going to actually work on foundation now. I am obsessed with the new Pat McGrath foundation and primer. These are fantastic. On a normal day, I don't usually use primer all the time, but I love this one in combination with the new Pat foundation. It just makes your skin so silky and smooth and a wonderful canvas to get started on. So I'm gonna take a little dollop of that. As you can see, it's sort of like a light pink color. And then when you put it on your skin, it just mattifies everything and smooths it. And like I said, you feel like silk. Put that all on my cheeks, especially on the sides of my nose, because I feel like it helps to kind of cover up some of those pores and create a nice canvas. And then a little bit on my forehead. And I find that a little goes a long way. So that little dot that I had on my hand has nicely spread around my entire face. Okay, so hands are very good as makeup tools, but I also love a good damp beauty blender. So I'm gonna go in with my beauty blender here, just get it a little bit damp, give it a squeeze. When they're totally dry, they take a little bit longer just to get some water into the center of it. I'm gonna squeeze that out and actually use a towel just to make sure that my hands are dry, but also to take out a little bit of the extra dampness. And then what I like to do is, I think sometimes people put the foundation into their hands and then they dip the beauty blender straight into it. I am not big on waste, and I find that when I do that, the beauty blender itself absorbs too much of the foundation. So I don't like wasting all of this amazing magical juice. So what I like to do is give this a little shake, and I'll put this into my hand. So you can see the formula of it is really thin and almost watery. It does take a little bit of building up sometimes, but I just find that the formula is so nice and dewy. So rather than dipping my beauty blender straight into it, I'm actually gonna go ahead and put it on certain zones of my face. Put a little bit on my cheeks, make sure I put on my chin, under the nose, of course, and then up here. I find that I need a little bit more on my cheeks because I want to cover up some of my hyperpigmentation that I have. So I'm going to go in a second time on that. But for now, once I've got it on my face, then I can start blending it in. And you want to just lightly pat that all over your face. And as you can see, this formula blends so nicely and just goes right into your skin. It just drinks it up. Okay, that's sort of layer one. I think on certain places, like on my nose, everything else, my forehead, I typically don't do a huge amount of foundation because I just don't think it needs it. On places where I want a little bit more, I'm gonna do another little squirt. And then, like I said, on my cheeks, I like to have a little bit more coverage. So I'm gonna do that. I could probably just finish it out with my fingers, but I do just wanna blend it in a little bit more. Beauty blender again, and just lightly dab that in. I had a little bit of rosacea down here on my kind of like lower chin and cheek area, so I'm going to give that a little bit more coverage as well. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with the way that that is looking. And then I'm going to do my concealer. Okay, so the concealer I've been using, or actually, you know what? Let me mention too, I realize that the Pat McGrath foundation is a bit of a splurge, but I love it. And if you either, like me, get it sent to you by the wonderful Pat herself, or you can afford it and you want to splurge, great. If not, there are definitely some other affordable options that I really love that will produce a really similar effect. This Neutrogena Hydro Boost Hydrating Tint is amazing and drugstore product, so great prices. And it doesn't fully cover your face, like you're not going to feel completely like you have a mask on, but it's just sort of like a nice combination between almost like a tinted moisturizer and a foundation, so it feels nice and light. Okay, so concealer is next. The one I've been using has been Fenty Beauty. My shade is in 240. I'm not a big contour person. I know a lot of you use concealer as part of your contour. I like to just put a little bit under my eyes, a little bit where I tend to get red, which is like just under my nose. So I'm just gonna put this here super lightly. I find that putting too much concealer makes me look a little fake. And on a daily basis, I don't know. I don't feel like I don't need that. Okay, so I'm just gonna take my Beauty Blender again and kind of pat that out. If you wanna be real extra, you can use a little mini Beauty Blender, which I'm not gonna do today, but these are perfect for kind of getting in all of your little nooks and crannies. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with the way that my base looks. And now I'm gonna go ahead and do a little bit of powder. This is a trick that I learned from a lot of different makeup artists, including Namvo. I love having a dewy face, and what I used to do was I would powder my entire face. I would take a big brush and just go like all over. And what happens is you end up looking very, very matte, and it's not really the look that I'm going for. I also have really dry skin, and when you have dry skin, you don't want that. Okay, so I'm just gonna take a little bit of this powder. And also you'll notice I'm not using a giant powder brush. I'm using this Surratt brush, which is actually, I think, meant for eyeshadow, but I use it for all over my face sometimes. So I'm just gonna take a little bit of this translucent powder. This is Laura Mercier, which is great, and was actually in the Allure Beauty box recently. So I'm gonna tap a little bit of that onto my brush, just for a light application. And rather than putting it all around my face, I'm just gonna put it on what we call our hot spots. So if you were sweating outside, where are the places that light is gonna reflect off of that? For me, and I think for everybody, it's the side of your nose, under your nose, sides of your nose here again. And I find that I get very, very shiny on my forehead, and in particular between my eyebrows. So I'm gonna make sure I powder there. But again, because I've got dry skin, there's no reason that I need to matte out the rest of my face. So once I've done my hot spots, it's kind of okay. And then I feel like my face the whole rest of the day doesn't feel dry and tight. Okay, so my powder is done. And then I'm going to go back to, I kind of skip around a little bit. I'm gonna go back and do a little bit more eyes. So this is also a Surratt product, which I think is really kind of special and unique. So part of it is a liner that is like skin colored. So if you're feeling tired, you can line the bottoms of your eyes and it fakes being awake. I don't use this part of it as much, but the part that I use the most is this is called the Inner Light Baton. So if you pull out this, you'll see there's like a little thing here and it's got this beautiful kind of shimmery color on it. What it's meant for is putting right into the corners of your eyes. So you'll see this a lot of like makeup bloggers and vloggers and stuff who do like the shadow right in the corner of their eyes, which helps to kind of like wake it up. It gives it a nice little shimmer there. I find that it deposits a lot, so I usually go in with a brush after that and just sort of pat it out so it's not too obvious. But it adds a little just like pretty brightness and shimmer right into the corner of your eyes. That's it. Again, do you need this? Could you use the shimmery shadow from the nude palette? Absolutely. If you want to be extra and you have it, go ahead and use this. Okay, so I'm gonna skip around again and I'm going back to face. I love this Laura Geller blush. I just find that it's such a pretty color for so many different things. So I'm gonna go ahead and use this one and one of my Fenty brushes. And I just wanna use my blush right here on the top of my cheekbone. So go ahead in there, tap a little bit about, and just lightly, again, think of it like salt. It's easier to add more than to take away. So starting in layers, start kind of easily and not too much. It's really hard sometimes if your light is not great in your home and you've applied too much blush and you kind of end up looking like a crazy lady when you're walking around outside. We don't want that. So go lighter and you can always go darker later. A little bit on the apples of your cheeks. If you just smile, you can see the apples there. If you needed to and you had harsh lines, you could go back in with your Beauty Blender and sort of make those less harsh. Again, I'm not a contour person. I've tried it. I've had other people do it on me. When other people do it, it looks awesome. When I try it at home, I look like I have a dirty face. So I'm not going to contour today, but I do have the Sigma Sculpt palette, which has really nice bronzers and also highlighters in it. So what I like to do is just a more kind of like easygoing, I don't even want to call it a contour. I just like using a little bit of bronzer in some places. I'm using this one called Faking It. And I'm just going to take this Surratt brush again, and where the shadow would hit if you make fishy face, those are your cheekbones, right? So I can kind of see that. And you want to amplify that shadow. I'm just going to take that brush. And again, it's not like a harsh line. It's not going to look clowny. You're just making a little faint shadow there. And then the other places that shadows would hit are going to be on your forehead. So sort of like in this pattern. You probably can't even see this, and who knows, but it's adding a little bit of definition there to my face. If you think about it kind of going like this in little triangles, and then a lot of times people will do this just to add a little bit of definition under the chin and jaw area too. I don't do a harsh nose contour, but I will go in very faintly. Again, this is like the most faint of nose contours, starting from the kind of crook of your eyebrow and then dragging it down with that color. Doing the same thing on this side. Super faint shadow again, nothing that you're going to have to really blend out. And then doing that last little V under the nose here. So after I finish doing a little super light contour of my nose, just adding a little bit more definition, on some days, if I want to go more extreme, I'll use the highlighters in the Sculpt palette. These really show up, but usually on a daily basis, I want something that blends in a little bit more and looks a bit more natural. So I am a huge fan of this Stila highlighter. It's actually one of my all-time favorites. This is Stila Heaven's Hue in Kitten, and the texture of it, if you guys could feel it, is amazing. I almost don't even know how to describe it. It's almost like a bouncy powder, like a combination between a cream and a powder. So as you can see, it's like the way that you would apply it. I always use my fingers, honestly. It just gives such a pretty glow to everywhere. Okay, so the places that I do highlighter are right in my Cupid's bow, but also kind of extending towards the outer part of my lip too. Kind of blending that in. Again, thinking about when light is hitting your face, where is that going to show? So this is where the light hits me, is on the high points of my face. Also, since I've just done those two kind of shadow lines on my nose, I'm going to go straight down the center, so I'm giving you all the finger. Going to go right down the center of my nose, and then right at the tip here too, because that's where the light is going to hit. Kind of blend that out if you feel like it's too stripy. And then my favorite parts are the tops of cheeks. So this is where light really hits you, and this is going to make your skin look so nice and dewy, is if you put a nice amount right here on your cheeks and right down here too. So in the shape, it's almost like a little L that goes right here. And just make sure that you blend that in. I'm not into the stripy look on my cheeks, so I like that to be much more diffused. So I will go in and kind of blend that out. And then just repeating on this side too, especially when you're walking around during the day and people see you and the light hits you in a certain way. This part right here is so flattering. If I'm feeling extra, which is probably every day, I layer highlighters. So I'll go in with this one, I'll do a liquid highlighter over, or a powder. Sometimes when I get to the office, I'll put on more. I love highlighter. Okay, so next is going to be eyes. I'm gonna actually pull the mirror a little bit closer to me now, because I'm gonna start with my eyeliner. And so normally at home, my mirror is a little bit higher. And I always say to people, it's sort of the same thing when you're doing nail art too. Everyone is always like, well, my hands are too shaky, I can't do eyeliner. So one of the tricks that I say is make sure that you have something to rest your elbows on, because it's gonna help to stabilize your hands so you don't have shaky hands. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and stack a book right here, because I'm a little bit low right now. Just so that I have something to rest my elbows on. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, so I am a winged liner fanatic. I wear winged liner almost every single day, and I've been practicing it for many years, and I still feel like I don't have it down some days. A lot of times people say, I can't get the wing right, they're uneven. Believe me, I've been doing it for years, and I still feel that way. Again, with a daily makeup routine, you're not going for perfection. Are we doing a photo shoot every day? No, don't worry about it. And also, I always say, like, if you don't like the way it looks, you can start over. It's really easy just to take a Q-tip, put it into some micellar water, redo the wing, and you're good to go. Okay, so again, because I'm extra, I use 2 different eyeliners on a daily basis, partially because I'm monolid, so meaning my lids actually, if you could go super close into my eyes, the part of my lid that has my eyelashes actually folds under my eye a little bit. So for me, it's really important with my eyeliners that they don't run, because if it runs, it's like literally like rubbing against itself. If it runs, it's like all over my eye, so no run. And also, I need to go a little bit higher up with my eyeliner than most people do in order to actually see it. So the 2 that I love, this one is by Tarte. This is Tartist. I use this one because it's a felt tip and it deposits a lot of product on the eye. So I use that on sort of the larger part of my eye. The problem with a lot of felt tip, though, I find, is that it's hard to get a really sharp wing with it. So then that's why I will go in with this MAC brush stroke in Brush Black, which has a brush tip. And as you can see, it's a really sharp, fine point. So I will actually start with that and I'll do my wing. So the hardest part of doing any wing liner is the actual wing. So I usually say to people, especially if you're starting out, start with the wing first, because if you mess that up, you can kind of fix it and then everything else falls into place. Okay, so with my MAC, I'm going to start with the wing down here. And as a typical rule, the way that you want to draw the bottom of the wing is as if your lower lash line were continuing. So if you kind of look at your lower lash line and say, okay, if that were continuing up, how would I follow that? And so I'm going to take this and draw the bottom of the wing. Okay. I want to go on the other side too, because this is the most important part of it. If these things are, you've got one at 3 o'clock and one at, I don't know, 8 o'clock, it's not going to work. So if you get this part right, all else is good. Okay, I think that's pretty good. I also just watched a video with Huda Katan, and she was like, my biggest trick is don't breathe. So I've been trying to do that too, because it's sort of true that it's like your hands are moving and you're breathing like this. So if when you're drawing it, you're a little bit nervous, just breathe out and don't breathe in, because otherwise your hands are going to get a little bit shaky. Okay, so with the wing, what I would suggest is if you're new at this, study a few wing shapes and take a look at photos and see what you like. Because when we've all learned geometry, right, we learn about angles and everything else. I think I've learned the type of angle that I really like, but learn what you like on yourself too. Okay, so I'm going to start at the top here, and I'm going to go ahead and connect that to the upper part of my eye. And again, what I was talking about is easier to add than take away. If you're kind of nervous, start with a more acute angle and you can always add to it. Okay, so that's my essential shape. I'm going to do it on the other side. Okay, that's a more acute angle, so then I'm going to add to it. Okay. So you can see I kind of made the outlines. So now I'm going to go ahead and fill those in. That's going to be my wing. I'm going to do the same on the other side. But as you can see, because I have this book here and I can lean on something, my hands are so much more steady, because then the only movement is really just happening with these little flicks of my wrist and my fingers, as opposed to my hand is not kind of hovering in the wind. Okay, wings are done, and then the easy part. Okay, so that was the tough part. Now I'm going to take my Tarte eyeliner and then give it a little shake, and then I'm going to start from my inner corner and go out to connect to the rest of the wing. And you want to make sure it's sort of a nice smooth line going down. So I usually have to pull my eye this way and then connect it here. And when I say to you this pen is super wet, it's like really wet. You can really feel it's almost like a Sharpie. And then I'm gonna fill in carefully here, making sure that I get all the way to the lash line, because it's not cute if you have just exposed skin there. And which is why a lot of people will then line their waterline, which I'm not super into because I think that you can actually get in there pretty well with a nice wet pen like this one. Okay, so that one's pretty much done. I'm gonna repeat on the other side. And then connect here. I think we've all seen people do the wing where it's like they'll do it in one swoop. That is not me. I think I take about 100 different sweeps, which is fine. You get the same result. Again, I'm getting all the way to the lash line in here. Okay, for me again, because my eyelids fold into themselves, I have to make sure that everything is nice and dry before I move on to my next step. Otherwise, it gets all over. So I'm gonna kind of let that dry a little bit. And I just let my eyes kind of go like that for a bit. But while I'm letting those dry, it's gonna look a little bit weird because I'm holding my eyes like this. But I'm gonna go ahead and start on my brows then while this is all drying. Okay, again, because I'm extra, I use 2 brow products. You absolutely don't need to do this. The brow pencil I use almost every day is a Sigma pencil in dark. I love this brow pencil because it's really skinny, and if you do a nice, fine little stroke, it mimics what a hair would look like. Okay, so I had my brows microbladed a couple months ago, so I have a nice pattern to follow here. The ends are the inner corner is starting to wear off a little bit though, but what you want to think about when you're doing your brows is drawing lines when you're using a skinny pencil that mimic your hair growth. So you want to follow the direction the hair is going in. So in the inner corner here, they're going up. So my strokes are going to be really light, going in an upward direction. They start going a little bit more diagonal here. And then just filling in any sparseness around here. So everything starts going sideways, it goes around the arch, and then starts going down here by the ends. I know sometimes people like doing a line at the bottom, a line at the top. I've kind of stopped doing that quite so much because I'm going for a little bit more of a natural growth pattern look. But to each his own. And then again, just knowing where you're sparse, filling that in. I'm going a little bit light at first, because again, you can always add more. And then going in on the other end. So my hairs are so dark that it's been really hard to find the right color brow pencil because some of them are too dark and then I look like Groucho Marx, which is not the look I'm going for. So I like that this one is dark, but not too crazy. Okay, so I'm going to take my spoolie on the other end and just kind of feather that out a little bit. And then if I have more time, I like to go in with this Glossier Brow Flick. And what this is it actually looks a little bit like a eyeliner. I think it's very similar to a brush tip eyeliner. And as you can see, it helps you draw a really fine line that's a little bit different than what the pencil can do. So what this does for me is that it's really black. So it actually mimics my hairs. So if you look at the brows, you can see parts of it are filled in and then parts of it are actual hair. So this, if you go in with a really light touch, can actually make it look like you've got more hairs growing there too. Oops, I drew some crazy ones. Oh well. Again, do you need to take this extra step? No. If I've got more time and I want to have a little bit of fun, I will do this. Not necessary for everyday use though. Okay, I got it a little bit crazy on this corner, so I'm just going to, with my spoolie, blend that out a little bit more so it's not quite so obvious. Okay. All right, my eyeliner is now dry, and then my almost final step is going to be lashes. My lashes are extremely short and straight, so one of the biggest things for me in my entire routine that I have to absolutely do, if someone said to me, you can only bring one thing, you're going to be stranded on a desert island, I would actually say I want to bring an eyelash curler, and then I would beg them to have me take mascara also, because it's so important. Okay, so my process of curling my lashes is I go in a lot, and it's not just like a one and done. I curl my lashes probably in like 3 different sets. So I'll get close to my lashes, my lash line, hold it for a little bit. This is the Shiseido lash curler. I'll go about halfway in and then do kind of the final third. So it's a nice curl, but I like them curled even more. And then I'll, again, because my eyelid kind of folds into itself, the way that I get a really good curl is I have to lift up my eyelid so it reveals a bit more of the lashes, get close to the base, do half, and maybe final third, and then I just repeat that again because I want a really dramatic curl in them. I've also seen other monolid makeup people say that they get a really good curl by angling the curler kind of up like this. I was doing that for a while, but I felt like I was in danger of pulling my lashes out, so I don't do that anymore. Okay. They're super curly. And so the other thing is with mascara, because my lashes are so straight, the biggest thing I want my mascara to do is to hold a curl. One of the best ones that I've found is this Maybelline Total Temptation Waterproof. Waterproof mascara, just so you know, tends to hold a curl better. For anyone who's got super straight lashes and you want it to hold a curl, this one does it amazingly, and it's drugstore. Okay, so I'm going to take that out and then kind of let it dry a little bit. And then, oops, I got a little eyeliner on me. And I'm going to hold this up and just give my lashes a bit of mascara. And then repeat on the other side. And again, I'm kind of holding my lid up so I am really revealing the base of my lashes. I can get them all coated. I usually will do 2 coats, but today I'm just going to do 1 because I feel like that's coating pretty nicely. Again, I'm extra, so I am using 2 mascaras, which I actually usually do during most of my days. This one is the Shiseido Imperial Lash Waterproof Mascara. The reason I use both of these is that the one that I use on the top is a little bit more extreme, like I'm getting a little bit more of a curl, it's a little bit more of a look, whereas I find that the Shiseido one is a nice and thin, really gentle formula. So for my lower lashes, I don't want it as extreme. I don't want any spidery lashes on the bottom. So I'm just going to go in with this, do a little bit on the bottom, which is really subtle, and then done. Again, do you need to do this? No. I have a ton of products at home, so I find that when I'm testing things out, I love to use multiple things because I don't like to waste also, so it's good and handy to be able to use multiple things in a day too. Okay, so almost done, and I am gonna finish with lips. My go-to normally has been, in the past couple of days, these Honest Beauty tinted lip balms. I love them because they give just a subtle little hint of color, and they're really moisturizing. So today I'm gonna use this one in Plum Drop. I don't think I've used this color before actually, so you guys are seeing this first. And I'm just gonna go ahead and go in and just As you can see, it's just a little hint of color. Okay, if I have more time and I want to do more of a lip look, I will do a lip liner, a liquid lipstick. I'm loving these from Sigma. I love Bite Beauty. So many good lipsticks on the market. But I think, especially if I'm in a rush, a good tinted lip balm is just amazing. It makes you look a little bit put together, but also lasts a really long time because it's moisturizing and it's not going to give you like dry mouth at all. Okay, so that is my everyday makeup routine. Again, I don't really have an everyday because every day is different. And for those of you who are short on time, like I am some days as a busy working mom, you can take any of the tips from here and use them. You absolutely don't need to double up on products in the way that I have. But I hope that you got something from this routine, and I will see you guys soon.